With top personalities.
Subscribe now for fresh and infotainment content daily.
Capital 100.4 FM. Harare's heartbeat.
Good evening. You're watching Newsplus right here on ZTN Prime with me, Wadzanai Sansole, and these are your headlines this evening. Harare and Ghana signed 10 MOUs as part of President Mnangagwa's historic state visit to the West African country. We reveal all the agreements of what they mean right here on Newsplus. The African Commission on Human and People's Rights have concluded its fact-finding mission in Zimbabwe, sharing its views on the ongoing Constitutional Amendment No. 3 bill consultations. Stay tuned for that story on Newsplus. We continue with our coverage of the road awareness campaigns as stakeholders join forces to tame road traffic accidents during this Easter holiday. Now, the Caps United juggernaut has finally been stopped while Dynamos and Scotland march on with narrow wins. Stay tuned for today's PSL results and our look at sport later on in the bulletin. Thank you very much for joining us. It is a very good evening. We start with our top story. President Mnangagwa has called on African countries to harness private sector participation and win-win synergies to tackle the continent's challenges. Now, he emphasized the need to add value to natural resources for maximum benefit. And addressing a state banquet hosted in his honor by Ghanaian President John Mahama on Wednesday night, President Mnangagwa traced the historical relations that bind Zimbabwe and Ghana. And he noted that Ghana, foremost, was the cradle of Pan-Africanism and also holds the distinction of being the first sub-Saharan nation to gain independence from colonial rule in 1957, consequently inspiring the whole continent. And in addition to standing shoulder to shoulder in the fight against colonialism and all its ills, Zimbabwe and Ghana share a unique bond as the late founding leader of Zimbabwe, President Robert Mugabe, was married to the late Sally Mugabe, who was Ghanaian. Now, the two heads of state today met at Pedway's State Valley Resort in Accra, where they witnessed the signing of 10 agreements. And our correspondent, Fungi Kwaramba, who is in Accra, gives us an update.
The signing ceremony was presided over by Zimbabwean President Mnangagwa and his Ghanaian counterparts, President John Mahama, marking a new chapter in cooperation between the two countries. According to officials, the MOUs establish a framework to guide future collaboration across a wide range of sectors, including tourism, agriculture, education, science, and technology. Agreements were also signed covering political and diplomatic consultations, as well as cooperation between the Zimbabwe Foreign Service Institute and Ghana Foreign Service Institute, focused on research, training, and documentation. In addition, the MOUs were signed in areas that include health, energy, archives, and sports, alongside collaboration on the Museum of African Liberation Struggle. Trade and investment cooperation featured prominently. One agreement was signed between Zimtrade and Ghana's Export Promotion Authority, whilst another was signed between the Zimbabwe's Geopomona Waste Management Private Limited and Ghana's Jaspong group of companies focusing on waste management. President Mnangagwa described the state visit as ushering a stronger era of relations anchored on economic cooperation and strategic partnership aimed at improving the lives and livelihoods of the people of both nations.
We now give you highlights of the MOUs that were signed between Harare and Accra. And now, Eben Mabunda joins us live to give us a breakdown of trade relations between Zimbabwe and Ghana. Eben, over to you.
Well, good evening. This speaks to the value of the two economies, Zimbabwe and Ghana. Now, bilateral trade between these two economies is currently in the doldrums at less than 300,000 United States dollars. But this gives you the picture of the GDP of both the Zimbabwean as well as the Ghanaian. Zimbabwe at about $52 billion according to Treasury, and Ghana's at anywhere between 100 billion to 112 billion United States dollars. This speaks to the potential that Zimbabwe could glean from engaging in trade with Ghana. And this, of course, gives us the structure of the Ghanaian economy, the $100 billion economy. 57% of it is pretty much your services. 24% is industry. This is also where you've got mining. Ghana being the top gold producer on the continent of Africa, and is also, of course, a big player where gas exploration as well as gas powering its economy is concerned. And these would be the areas of course, cooperation that you'd find between Zimbabwe and Ghana. Historically, Zimbabwe's teachers were trained in Ghana, including the former and late President R.G. Mugabe. Mining, as I just alluded to, there would also be possibilities in the sector of agriculture, where it is that they have pretty much done well in terms of feeding the economy, and it's also a very good market for Zimbabwe's produce getting into that West African country. Tourism as well then also becomes central. So these would be some of the key areas that Zimbabwe and Ghana could be looking at enhancing the bilateral trade that exists between the two countries.
Now, in another one of our top stories, Acting President Kembo Mohadi today visited the Algerian embassy in Harare, where he signed the Book of Condolences on behalf of President Emmerson Mnangagwa following the death of former Algerian leader Eliamin Zeroual. Now, Zeroual, who died on March 28 at a military hospital in Algiers after a long illness. At the embassy, Acting President Mohadi expressed Zimbabwe's condolences and solidarity with the people of Algeria during this period of mourning.
The man you are talking about, we are talking about a man that was quite resilient, a freedom fighter, and a man that loved peace, and a man that loved the solidarity and the unity of Africa. That's what he stood for. He was a champion of Pan-Africanism on the continent. So we have lost really somebody of great significance, not only to Zimbabwe, but to the entire continent of Africa. So we mourn and we share the same grief that the Algerian people are sharing.
In other news, Japanese and Serbian ambassadors to Zimbabwe this Thursday paid courtesy calls on Defense Minister Oba Muchinguri Kashiri as Zimbabwe continues to strengthen its diplomatic engagement with the international community. Now, correspondent Mirirai Nsingo has the story.
First to pay the courtesy visit on Defense Minister Honorable Opa Muchinguri was the Serbian ambassador, who pledged to continuously support Zimbabwe in various areas of cooperation. Serbia and Zimbabwe's relations date back from the liberation struggle era, where Serbia supported Zimbabwe in its struggle. The two separate meetings focused on enhancing existing bilateral relations between Harare and the two countries. Key areas of discussion included defense, climate change, agriculture, health, technology, and infrastructure development, which are seen as critical sectors in driving Zimbabwe's socio-economic growth.
The military medical cooperation, which we can share our experience, then military educational cooperation, which is very important to continue this legacy and tradition.
Defense Minister Honorable Opa Muchinguri acknowledged the support from Serbia over the years.
They trained our officials. One of them is Comrade Ambassador Muchangwa, and many other comrades who trained in Serbia, that time, of course, Yugoslavia.
Japan also pledged support for Zimbabwe's demining activities to ensure that the country gets rid of all landmines. Climate change and artificial intelligence are also some of the areas of cooperation the two countries pledged to work on.
In our today's discussion, then the focus on the demining project. Demining, and especially in the northeast area. And so still there are many mining under the ground.
Minister Mchinguri commended Japan for its efforts in supporting Zimbabwe in various areas, key among them demining, noting that this will go a long way in bridging gaps.
And we are hoping some are using even drones, drone technology to identify, to detect the landmines. So we are hoping that detectors, yes, but also there are human dangers. But when you use drones, you save human life.
The engagements are expected to pave the way for expanded partnerships and increased collaboration in line with the country's development agenda. As Zimbabwe continues to strengthen diplomatic ties, engagement like these are expected to open new opportunities for cooperation and strengthening mutual bilateral relations and growth between the nations. Reporting for ZTN Prime, I am Mirira Insingo.
Now you are watching Newsplus, and we're coming to you live from Harare. Stay tuned for more news updates.
Rural Electrification Fund, competitive tenders. The Rural Electrification Fund, REF, is inviting bids from reputable bidders for the following tenders. Tender number 1, supply and delivery of solar home systems, various sizes. The closing date for this tender is on the 20th of April, 2026. The following tenders have a closing date of 27 April, 2026. Tender number 2, supply and delivery of biogas and internal wiring materials. Tender number 3, supply and delivery of various ICT software licenses. Tender number 4, supply and delivery of various vehicle spares and service kits. Tender number 5, provision of REF asset insurance cover for physical assets. Tender number 6, supply and delivery of tents and mattresses. Standard bidding documents availability. Bidding documents are available on the Electronic Government Procurement System, EGP, https://egp.pras.org.zw. Bid submission shall also be done on the EGP system not later than the dates and time provided. Magetsi kumusha, amagetsi ekaya.
Welcome back. Now moving on with our bulletin. The African Commission on Human and People's Rights has commended Zimbabwe's constitutional reform process while encouraging further strengthening of key areas as its fact-finding mission in the country concludes. Now, the delegation, which conducted tours of institutions and held high-level engagements, says the process is moving in a positive direction with notable progress recorded in the promotion of human rights. Now, the Commission says while it fully respects Zimbabweans' sovereignty, it has engaged authorities on the constitutional amendment process, offering recommendations aimed at strengthening alignment with regional and international human rights standards.
And as a Commission, we made it very clear that we recognize the sovereignty of Zimbabwe and the fact that it has the right to determine its constitutional agenda. But we're just making a recommendation for it to be as inclusive as possible so that all stakeholders feel that they have been consulted and they're part of the process. Not only the communities, but civil society organizations also need to be consulted. Traditional religious leaders need to be consulted because these are all people who make up the society.
Now, Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Minister Ziyambi says the visit has provided an opportunity for the government to reflect on its systems while also taking on board recommendations around issues such as prison overcrowding and the ratification of outstanding international treaties.
And they also picked some challenges that we have. Like we have the overcrowding in prisons. It's one of the challenges areas that we need to have a look at. They spoke about the need to ratify certain treaties, and they mentioned some that they are very passionate about, to say, can they be ratified? And we said we'll look into that. They spoke about the process that we are doing in terms of the constitution making, and expressed some of the things that they believe will enhance our processes, and we agreed that we'll consider some of them.
Meanwhile, public hearings on the Constitution Amendment No. 3 bill have concluded around the country, including in Mashonaland East Province, where a team of parliamentarians led by Honorable Knowledge Kaitano wrapped up sessions in Mudzi and Mutoko districts. Now, Kaitano praised the turnout, saying the sessions were a success.
We started in Chikomba Administrative District, and then we went towards Marondera, Goromonzi, UMP, Mureva, now Mudzi and Mutoko today. What we have witnessed is the number of people that turned out for these public hearings. People came out, they spoke.
Now, authorities have reiterated that road safety is a shared responsibility, urging the public to practice safe driving and strict adherence to traffic regulations. And they emphasize that reducing road traffic crashes requires a collective effort from both law enforcement agencies and ordinary citizens. And this was highlighted during the Easter and Independence Road Safety Campaign held in Nyabira earlier today.
The Zimbabwe Republic Police has called on motorists to adopt responsible road behavior, noting that recklessness, carelessness, and failure to follow traffic rules are major contributors to the rise in road traffic crashes.
Road safety is a shared responsibility. Zvekuti vanhu vanofunga kuti kana vachifamba mumugwagwa umu ndezvehurumende kwete. Isusu semapurisa enyu we are concerned nekumhanya kuri kuita vanhu mumugwagwa umu.
In 2025, government implemented a number of measures aimed at improving road safety, including strengthening the vehicle inspection department with more than 40 patrol vehicles and tow trucks, as well as equipping the Zimbabwe Republic Police with breathalyzers. However, despite these interventions, some motorists continue to disregard road rules. The Minister of Transport has encouraged that Zimbabweans desist from this behavior.
Naro kubva iko zvino tichienda pamberi tinoona kuti tine basa sevana veZimbabwe kuti tinge tichimisikidza hunhu patingafambe kumugwagwa.
Convergence Community Emergency Response Representative Webster Jaricha said their organization will continue offering voluntary services to assist road crash victims and help save lives.
We are also going out into different communities, training the gardeners, training the maids. We often are first responders and they're first to witness an incident. And we know while that is being done in the background, we then are able to coordinate the police, coordinate all ambulance services which are available and closer to the scene so that we improve the turnaround times.
Zimbabwe Passenger Transport Organization Chairman Dr. Sam Nananga has encouraged passengers to report reckless driving to police at roadblocks to ensure safety throughout their journeys.
Ende ma roadblocks anenge atiwedzerwei ngatisununguke nekukwanisa kutaura zviri kuitika mumabhazi atiri kufamba nawo.
With these measures in place to tame the country's roads, authorities are hopeful that every Zimbabwean will take heed and commit to responsible driving for the safety of all. Reporting for ZTM Prime, I am Setachi Siwegwaza.
Now, a court-ordered ground verification exercise in Kitsiatota mining site in Bindura to determine the exact geographical location of an environmental impact assessment that has brought new developments in a simmering mining dispute, with authorities moving to establish clear operational boundaries between two rival companies.
The verification exercise follows an interim order granted on 27 March 2026 after a complaint was lodged at the Magistrates Court citing alleged violations of environmental laws. Different stakeholders, including the Environmental Management Agency, police, and representatives from both companies involved were present during the inspection.
In fact, this dispute was emanating from a dispute between two companies which are Navid Incorporation and Side Electrical. It involves the boundary demarcation line between these two, and disputes were arising between workers or those miners which were hired on behalf of these two companies. So because of that, my client exercises his rights in terms of the constitution, particularly as a citizen of Zimbabwe. So the court directed that there be a ground verification exercise.
The team identified the approved operational zone for site electricals, directing that mining activities be confined to the eastward boundary, where a valid environmental impact assessment certificate applies. Concerns were raised during the exercise over possible illegal mining activities beyond approved boundaries. However, both the mine representative, Evelyn Mhlanga, insisted that their operations are guided by approvals from the Ministry of Mines, highlighting the distinction between mining rights and environmental certification.
We are not much concerned in our executive record, but it's also to make us guide the mines, the mining rights, but our people, to mine our managing. So one of the conditions which we gave in our FIA certificate was for both the mine to operate within the approved site of this site, which had the coordinates of their mining area.
The Environmental Management Agency is now expected to compile a report from the findings.
The Environmental Management Agency is then mandated in terms of that court order which I referred to then write a report to the court which it ought to submit before the 10th of April 2026, being the return date when both parties ought to report back to the court, for the court then to look into that report and come up with the most probable decision.
The outcome of the case could set an important precedent of how environmental and mining disputes are handled in Zimbabwe.
Now, coming up shortly after the break, we take a look at our business stories. Zimbabwe launches a global skills hub to tackle unemployment.
I was raised in a family of 4 siblings. We're very musical. We had so much time to practice in the streets. The neighbors always complained. And I remember standing outside my grandmother's house. I would have a talk show with bricks as my guests. So I think my career choice was a very natural one. My journey with MultiChoice started at Idols. It was so professional. I was so intimidated, but it turned out to be a very fruitful one. From Idols, Our Perfect Wedding Zimbabwe, Chew On, they've held my hand. I'm a proud member of that MultiChoice family. To ignite Africa's creative industries, to me, is what MultiChoice is doing. And they're bringing great, brilliant minds together to tell our African stories and for us to determine the path that we're going to take for the future. It's priceless.
Government has taken a major step to tackle unemployment and open up global opportunities with the launch of the Zimbabwe Global Skills Partnership Program. And this program will link local talent to international markets, and we give you more in the following report.
Speaking at the launch this Wednesday, Audit and Skills Development Minister Dr. Jenfan Muswere said the initiatives seek to close country's skills gap by connecting Zimbabwean workers with opportunities abroad. He said the program will provide a framework to skill, upskill and reskill people.
And with the mandate of the Ministry of Skills Audit and Development, our primary focus is ensure that we upskill, we reskill, and we also provide a framework as we do the skills audit.
Dr. Mswere said the program will turn brain drain into brain gain.
So the Zimbabwe Global Skills Partnership Program seeks to ensure that we can achieve by making sure that brain drain becomes brain gain. How do we harness our diaspora skills and how do we align skills development for each and every program in our country?
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, Rudo Chitinga, said the ministry will guide against the exploitation of Zimbabweans abroad and get jobs through legal ways.
The source of demand
So we will be having agents in different countries, that plus we have embassies in all these countries that will verify that this company you are talking about does not exist in this country. Or this company is a Fortune 500 company, it is well recognized in this country. So it is okay to send our citizens to it. So this database is ensuring that we have proper mobility of our labor.
As Zimbabwe positions itself in the global skills market, the program is expected to create new opportunities for professionals and drive economic growth. Reporting for ZTM Prime, I'm Nicolette Makoni.
Let's take a look at what's happening in the world of sport. In our look at sport, we will give you updates on the PSL matches. Defending champions Scotland edged Telwan 3-2 in a tight match at Ascot, while Ngezi Platinum Stars upset log leaders Caps United 2-0 at the Baobab Stadium to end the team's perfect start to the season. Now, Hard Rock beat Herentals 4-1 at Chawanda, with Triangle beating struggling Agama 2-0. FC Hunters scored their first goal of the season in a 1-1 draw against ZPC Kariba, and Bulaya Chiefs and Simba Bora ended goalless, along with another stalemate at Gibo, with Manika Diamonds and Chicken Inn playing another goalless draw. And that's a wrap on our bulletin this evening. But before we let you go, just going to give you a quick recap of what we looked at in tonight's bulletin. Harare and Ghana signed 10 MOUs as part of President Mnangagwa's historic state visit to the West African country. And after that top story, we looked at the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, which concluded its fact-finding mission in Zimbabwe, sharing its views on the ongoing Constitutional Amendment No. 3 bill consultations. The road awareness campaigns continue as stakeholders join forces to tame road traffic accidents during this Easter holiday. And just now in sport, we looked at the Caps United juggernaut, which finally stopped while Dynamos and Scotland marched on with narrow wins. Thank you very much for your time. My name is Wadzanai Sansole. Now from the crew behind the scenes and myself, have a good night and happy Easter.
Shaiwa kana sezuwa ndinongo tangana totemiwa nemusoro andivhi kuti toma mangana bo ndokunongo tenga bodhoro ndotenga half time ndotenga mwana bodhoro
saka kana ndikamaputi brandika zvikutongo ndipfeka